Hi, it's Mark. We're here with award-winning realtor in Vancouver, Paul Toffoli. Paul, we're going to talk about what taxes are payable on a home purchase in BC. How are you doing today?
I'm well, Mark. Thank you very much. I can't believe it's still summer, sort of. Mark, we agreed we were going to talk about some taxes and fees that apply to purchasing property in British Columbia. And it's actually really straightforward. Um, if you're buying a brand new property in Canada, but in BC particularly, there is GST that applies. It's a 5% tax. There are rebates on that if your purchase price is under, I believe it's $450,000. So each transaction needs to be calculated, and of course that only applies to brand new properties. If it's a resale property, so something that's been lived in for even 6 months, or sometimes people will actually have a brand new property that they pay GST on and then they flip it right away, then there's typically no GST payable on those transactions. That being said, I think CRA may feel, if it hasn't ever been lived in, that the GST should be paid twice. So that's a good question for your accountant to clarify that. But typically we only see GST being paid on a property the first time it's bought as a pre-sale or brand new property. And that's 5% with rebates. For resale properties, so that's something that's been lived in before or is not brand new, then there is no GST. Now there is another tax, it's a provincial tax, that applies to all properties. So regardless whether it's a new property and you're paying GST or a resale property where you're not paying GST, there is always property transfer tax that is applicable. That tax is 2% of the first $200,000. Sorry, take that back. It's 1% of the first $200,000 plus 2% of the balance. That goes on up to the top. Now, if you are a first-time home purchaser purchasing under $475,000 as of this taping, then there is no property transfer tax. There is a rebate, so it's a full rebate. You will have a rebate up to about $525,000. It slowly disappears. Once you hit that $525,000 mark, there is no rebate at all. It's not you get it free on the first 475 and it's gone. Once you hit that number, you're paying the full freight. Again, it's 1% on the first $200,000 plus 2% on the balance. There are also some other exemptions. If you're transferring between families, so my first home I bought from my grandmother. It was a family home she'd been in for many years. I did not have to pay property transfer tax on that because it was a transaction between direct family members. So those are the main ones. You do have other fees that you're going to be, other costs you're going to be talking about. You're going to have home inspection on 95% of all transactions, unless it's maybe brand new with a warranty. You're going to have legal fees. So we're talking about when you transfer the property, you have to hire a lawyer or notary to do the conveyancing of that property. That typically on a purchase is around $900 to $1,500 depending on the complexity and who's doing the work. And also on a sale of a property, you're going to have that cost. So that's the main ones. Again, on selling a property, what are the costs? You're going to have some legal fees like we just talked about. It's typically a little less, under $1,000, including discharging a mortgage. The biggest one is real estate commissions, real estate fees, and those will vary depending on your realtor, so that's something to talk about. But all of the taxes on those transactions are paid by the buyer. Now, unless it is a revenue property. We're fortunate in Canada that we have a capital gains exemption for our principal residences. So if you bought your home 20 years ago for $400,000 and you're selling it today for $1.5 million, there is no capital gains tax on that gain. If it is a revenue property, however, you would be paying capital gains tax. And again, talk to your accountant about the details. But generally, you're taxed on 50% of the gain at your marginal tax rate. So if you're in the top marginal tax rate of 48%, you're going to pay about 24% tax on that total gain. I think that covers most of the costs and fees on buying and selling real estate in British Columbia.
Awesome. Simple, sweet, easy. Thanks a lot, Paul. Paul's an award-winning realtor here in Vancouver, just recently voted by the readers of the Georgia Straight magazine as the best realtor in Vancouver. You can reach him at toffoli.ca or at 604-787-6963. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Mark.